Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy you're joining me again today for another video. Today I am sharing a fun way to use some stamps that you die cut out on dark backgrounds. Now I am going to use one of those really long stamp sets by Pinkfresh Studio that don't actually fit in your MISTI. So I'm going to use this trick that I've seen the Pinkfresh Studio design team use a lot, and that is to tape your MISTI in place, tape your cardstock in place, and use the outside of your MISTI door. So I'm using some Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock. This is going to be really good to ink blend on later, which is awesome because I'm going to use the coordinating stencils as well. So I'm really taping this MISTI in place because I really don't want it to move, and my cardstock is also taped in place, so then I can use this Dahlia washi stamp on the outside of my MISTI door. This is the first time I'm using this stamp, so I am rubbing my fingers all over it to get rid of any residue that was left in the production process. And then I am stamping this in Versafine Onyx black ink. I actually made a bunch of these panels all at once, so I made 4 of these panels. I stamped all of them and then I embossed all of them, but I'm only showing you the one. I am going to use some Wow Clear Gloss Superfine Embossing Powder to emboss these images, and I do this not just because it adds shine, but also because it will protect the outline from any ink blending you do over it. So none of the ink blending we're going to do later is going to affect the outline. It's all going to stay nice and black and shiny. Now the awesome thing about these stamp sets or these products by Pinkfresh Studio is that they all have coordinating sets. So you could, if you want to, and if you want to spend the money on that, you could buy the stencil set that coordinates with this. You can buy the die that coordinates with this. There's even washi tape in this product suite, but I really like it because you get a bunch of these images all at once. It's really easy to color them with the coordinating stencils, and the coordinating die, it's just a one-piece die that cuts out all of these pieces all at once. And that is a lifesaver for me because I am really bad at lining up things. The most time I spent on this video was lining up all of the stencils, which is harder to do if you've embossed your images actually. That's a quick side note that is probably helpful. If you emboss on your cardstock, it warps. You can always see that because you get buckles in the paper. But what actually happens is that the paper shrinks in some places. So if your stencils don't line up perfectly after you've embossed your images, that is not the fault of the company that made the stencils. That is not your fault. It's just what happens when you emboss on cardstock. And with some cardstock, this happens a little bit more than with others, but I think it always happens. I haven't had cardstock that doesn't warp at all when you emboss on it. Now once I'm done ink blending these, I can die cut them out with a coordinating die. And I want to use these on a dark background. That was the plan all along. That's the title of the video. I really like bright florals on a dark background. It really makes them pop. But when you die cut them and you've ink blended them, you always end up with white space, and that just ruins the whole thing for me. So the easiest way to do to make them blend in with the background, to not have that white space, is to find a marker that closely resembles your cardstock that you're going to use for your background, and that way you can just color in the white space. I did this for all of the images I was going to use and then some extras because I forgot to film it. But yeah, so this is a really easy way to make your images blend in more with the background and I mean, they're not going to blend in with the background, but the white space is going to be gone from your die cut images. Now I die cut this diamond shaped frame using the nested diamonds from Pinkfresh Studio. And I said it before in this video, I'm really bad at lining things up. So it's a miracle that this frame, which uses 2 dies that you have to line up, worked out okay once. So usually if I die cut a frame, I would die cut it a couple of times and layer those together. But now to add some dimension to this frame, where I used 2 dies that I'm not gonna line up perfectly each time, I just added some strips of cardstock to it to add dimension to it. And I used dark black cardstock because most of my card is going to be dark and I didn't want any white to show. The same is true for this die cut background. So this blue is going to be the color of my card. I am going to add some ink blending around the edges to add more definition to this card. But I also layered 2 layers of thick black cardstock behind it to add some dimension. Usually I do die cut layering with white cardstock, but on a dark card that doesn't make much sense. So I used some black and it worked out fine. I'm using some dark blue inks to ink blend all the way around the edges, and then it's time to put this card together. I just cut with my paper trimmer this blue panel of cardstock to cover my card base. This is going to be my dark blue background, and on top of that I can adhere that Geo Floral background die by Pinkfresh Studio. Again, this is layered up. It's 3 layers of cardstock, so there's some really nice dimension in it, and I love that for a background. Now for now, nothing is adhered down yet. I'm just keeping that frame roughly in place so I can see where to arrange all of these floral pieces. Then I can, once I'm happy with it, I turn it around to see if I would like it better the other way around, but I didn't. So I'm zooming you guys in a bit so you can actually see the card a little bit better. I am taking away that frame, but I'm going to keep it to the side so I can check every once in a while to see if I like where things are going and I like where I stuck things down. I'm just adhering them with liquid glue, which is okay on this background, but there are really fine details in this background die, and you do need to make sure all the pieces are actually adhered down. That really tiny floral bud in the top right corner wasn't adhered down properly, so I had to go back in and fix that. But with the frame on top, it probably wouldn't have fallen off or anything. But I like it being secured so it arrives to the recipient okay. I'm embossing a sentiment onto matte gold cardstock, the same cardstock I die cut the frame from. And with these cardstocks that have a finish on them, so they're glossy, well, they're not glossy, there's a slick surface. It's really hard to get an accurate embossing because Versamark ink or any clear embossing ink, it really glides around on those slick surfaces. So you most of the time get letters that are a little bit too thick, and the holes in the A's and the E's, they disappear. So I just go in with a really fine tool. I used my tweezers, but you can use a needle or something just to scrape away some of the embossing powder before I heat set it. And then I fussy cut out that sentiment. I did put some foam tape behind that to add dimension to it and make it level with the frame. And then I added these matte gold pearls by Pinkfresh Studio as well. For a matching envelope, I'm keeping things really simple. I'm just folding one out of dark blue cardstock. It's not an exact match, but I love that petrol blue cardstock too much that I used for the card to make an envelope out of it. I don't have a ton of it, so I just used this, which I do have quite a bit of. Once that's folded, I can glue it down with the Barely Art Precision Craft glue, and that finishes up this card. I love bright florals on a dark background, and I'm very happy with how this one turned out with the marker trick. It's so easy to do if you have a close match marker to your cardstock. It's not always easy to find some, but sometimes you just luck out. I'm hoping to share another favorite trick of mine to make dark backgrounds with bright florals soon, but I can't promise anything. I have so many videos planned, so I hope that is coming soon. Stay tuned for that. You can subscribe to my channel to make sure you don't miss a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.